All right, so I'm gonna get started here, and we have virtual norms like usual. You guys are probably more than used to this by now. Make sure that you keep your default mute on, but feel free to use that chat box and raise a virtual hand if you want to talk, please. During the first part of the session, you can type your questions or comments using the chat feature. Chiaka will hopefully presence any questions over chat or a raised hand. And then after the session is done, I'm going to go ahead and do an FAQ document with responses to any questions that I didn't get a chance to answer. During the second part of the session, we're going to have a Q&A with virtually raised hands. So please go ahead and raise your hand by clicking it at the bottom of the participant list. If you can, please make sure your questions are brief. And if you'd like to schedule a Zoom with me and you haven't yet, so many of you have, but if you haven't yet scheduled a Zoom with me, please just email me and we can schedule a Zoom and we could talk for a good 45 minutes to an hour about any questions you have. This session is going to be recorded, and let me go ahead and make sure that I'm recording it. Yep, it's being recorded right now for anyone who couldn't get a chance to see us. Okay, so these last couple of weeks, I have been like spiritually and emotionally and academically relying on the National Equity Project for resources and articles that have helped me think more about culturally responsive teaching and about culturally responsive leadership. And they have a space on the National Equity Project website called The Rebel Leader and how to address leadership during these times. This is a quote that I got from one of the articles that was on the website, and I'd like somebody to read it. Who could read that for me?
I can read it.
Go ahead.
One of the most calming and powerful actions you can do to intervene in a stormy world is to stand up and show your soul. Soul on deck shines like gold in dark times. To display the lantern of soul in shadowy times like these, to be fierce and to show mercy toward others, both are acts of immense bravery and greatest necessity.
Amazing. So the link there is at the bottom if you want to read through this a little bit more. It's pretty powerful. It's like a poem or a spoken word that she wrote. So what I'd like you to do right now is to use the chat feature to type your answer or answers to these questions. How have you shown your soul to your students and colleagues during this time? How have you been a bright beacon of light for your colleagues, your students, and your families during this time? And you can also answer, what acts of bravery or mercy have you been involved with lately? Go ahead and use your chat box and go ahead and just answer one of those questions, just for some reflective questions to get our juices flowing right now. Or if you'd like to raise your hand and share something that you've done recently, you can do that too. Hashim, can I unmute you? Go ahead, Hashim, you're unmuted.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I was going to type in, but I think I got little wiggly fingers. Typically, I'm a very private person, and that's just the nature of who I am. I retreat to myself. I'm comforted by my books, my 13-year-old chess. But these are interesting times that we're living in, and I found myself actually participating more in Zoom meetings with my colleagues, with my students, and I think that's more about my need to move beyond the dominant narrative of who I am. And so this is an opportunity to, like I highlighted, there were 3 questions that I wanted the students to focus on What are you worried about? What are you working on? And what do you see in your future? What do you see in our future? And those three questions, shout out to Dawn Staley. I'm a college basketball fan. I thought that that was very profound as she shared that with her players. And so I wanted to share that with the students, just to let them know that it's not just about history. It's not about, you know, the X's and O's of history. I just want to be able to just get at you, see where you are right now.
And Hashim, thank you so much for that, because I love this idea of moving beyond our own comfort zones. We might be fully fine right now. Lars often says, like, he's never recognized how privileged he was until this situation, you know? But moving beyond the dominant narrative of who we are to connect with students is very powerful. Thanks, Hashim, for sharing that. Jennifer Graham, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, hey, some of the things that I've been doing was I made postcards for all my kids and sent them to them, like just like those informal, like, these are the things I miss about you, I hope you're doing well, and doing lots of more casual emailing with students than I feel like I've ever done in the past, just on that emotional piece. Our school also has been doing these dance videos to send out to the kids where the teachers all dance, and that's definitely outside of my comfort. And I know they're probably laughing at me, but I feel like that's okay, that they need something to laugh about right now. And so those are some of the things I've been doing.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Jen. All right, we have some really interesting things. Chiaka, did you see anything interesting in the chat box that you want to highlight?
So there is a question that Jane had. If we had a regular Zooms with Lars, should we still be able to schedule a time with you?
Absolutely, you can, Jane. Just go ahead and send me an email. All right. So many really great examples of culturally responsive teaching in this chat box right now. I just want to encourage you all to go ahead and take a look at it. I'll try to save it and print it out for everybody and send it. Thank you so much, Ashley and Rachel and Crystal and Lanika, for commenting. Jane and Kathy, thank you so much. All right, let's go ahead and go ahead and move on now, because there are so many things that we want to get through, and I want to make sure that you've got the logistics of the certification just right. Okay, so today's agenda, we're going to take a look at a timeline review. We're going to talk about what the portfolio presentations will require and how to sign up for them if you haven't yet. We're going to talk a little bit about materials submission. Materials submission form just opened today, so that's really exciting, and I want to explain that to you. Assessment procedures, some continuing supports, and then we'll go ahead and have a Q&A. So we're going to go ahead and start with the revised timelines, and all of you should know this information right now, by now, that we have 2 submission windows with extended timelines moving forward. The first submission window, the deadline is next week, April 29th. I'm really excited that there's so many brave people who want to do the first submission window. Go ahead and raise your actual hand if you're in the first submission window. Wonderful. Raise your virtual hand if you're a part of the second submission window. Awesome, good. Okay, so those, it doesn't matter which submission window you go through, they're going to be the same exact process. We just wanted to give you a little space on your submission if you needed it. And so let's go on now. Let's talk a little bit more about portfolio presentation signups. Chiaka, do you see any questions there in the chat box by chance?
No, none that I see.
Okay, good. Just go ahead and stop me if you all see it. Okay, portfolio presentation sign up. They're open until the end of the day today, April 20th, for both assessment windows. So some people were thinking that you only had to sign up for a portfolio presentation if you were a part of the first window, but that's not true. If you want to apply in the second submission window, you also need to sign up for a portfolio presentation slot. I've linked it there under the first bullet point. Under it's time to select your portfolio presentation time and date using this form. That form is linked right here on the slideshow. You go on into that. You can select your portfolio presentation time and date from any of the selections left. A lot of the spaces have already been taken, but the ones remaining are still available. When you're using the form, please don't select all available times. Just select one slot for your presentation. Go ahead and write it down, and then by early next week, an email invitation is going to be sent to you with a Zoom address for your presentation. Please accept that invitation as quickly as you can as a confirmation that that's when you will be doing your portfolio presentation. And I'll talk a little bit more next about what that portfolio presentation is going to look like in this virtual space. Hashim, I have a hand up for you. Go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask your question if you'd like to.
I'm sorry, my hand is still raised from the virtual one in terms of asking for the latter date, and I just didn't turn it down. I'm sorry.
No problem. Did you want to see, Hashim, the last slide again?
No, I just need to get into that link. Yeah, I'm going to sign up for the second submission window, but I need to just get into the application form. But I just forgot to put my hand down.
Got it. No problem. I'll go ahead and lower your hand for you. There you go. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about portfolio presentation reminders. What's this going to look like? What does a portfolio presentation look like this spring? We usually all get in a big room and we hash it out, but this year we're going to be hashing it out on Zoom. So all portfolio presentations are going to take place on Zoom this year. During the presentation, you're going to be able to share your screen as you either present a slideshow or you can present your website to the assessment team. A lot of people ask me, do I present my entire portfolio during that 30 minutes? My answer is no. You're not going to get a chance to show us your entire portfolio. What you will do is be able to pick out the highlights from your certification journey and share that with the team. You have 30 minutes to present, okay? And then there will be 15 minutes of clarifying questions, all right? That time goes by very quickly, much more quickly than you think it's going to. So please plan your time carefully. We have a couple of resources for you on this slide, and then I'll answer the questions that are coming up now. There is an article in the Zoom Help Center about how to share your screen on a Zoom. There's also that simplified instructions set that I put there. And then Kim Gibson created a presentation for how to do your portfolio presentation. We recorded it, and there it is right there linked to the screen here for you to take a look at if you're interested. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the chats now.
We do have a question from Hollins.
Go ahead.
Has everyone who has attended your presentation seen your essay and full portfolio?
Yes, absolutely. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about assessment procedures, but long story short, you'll have 4 to 5 assessors in the Zoom room. They'll have all seen your essay and your portfolio and scored it already based on the rubric. When you do your presentation, that highlight can actually change your score. It can actually go up from there. So, you know, they'll all be very familiar with your work and you'll be able to influence them through your portfolio presentation. Okay. Afterwards, they all get together and they talk more and they determine what the results are, and then they write feedback for you.
So we have another question of just like clarifying a time and date of a presentation sign up. Is there, I guess, a way that we can go back and look at the date that we signed up for?
Okay, can the person who asked that question unmute themselves?
It was me. It's Brandy Garbaccio.
Hi,
Sorry.
Brandy. How are you?
Laptop, his Lenovo right now.
Okay, got you,
My
Brandy.
sound is off. I was just curious. So we received a form for a presentation slot around spring break, and I'm confused because that had a time on it as well. So
Yes.
I'm not sure what that was now.
So now, Brandy, what you need to do, if you haven't gone into that form yet, and I'll show you here where it's linked again.
Well, no, I filled out the form the day it came out, and then I just filled it out again. I just want to make sure I'm not doing the same form twice.
You might have, So I'll go ahead and take a look at it and communicate with you over email about what time slot you really want.
You first and foremost, I want the prior one if I can.
The first one that you
The
signed up
first
for.
one, please. Yes.
Okay, I'm putting that in my notes, and I'll email you if I have any clarification, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, and I see something from Jonathan Faulkner. Jonathan, you said, is Micro doing a Zoom presentation also, or just full? No, Micro is doing a Zoom presentation. You mean right now, Jonathan?
No, I mean, in relation to what you have on the slide here, do we have to sign up for a time if we're doing Micro? Because I was told that Micro was not doing a presentation.
Micro does not do a presentation, only certification.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, got it. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and go on. Remember, you can always go ahead and type something in the chat box if you want to learn more, if you have any other questions. All right, so we're going to go on. And now we're going to talk a little bit about material submission. So you've signed up for a presentation slot. If you haven't, you can do that today, okay? But the material submission form has also opened today, only for assessment window number 1. So if your submission is due on April 29th, the first submission window, you have until April 29th to submit all your materials. Here in red is the link for certification materials submission. So let me just tell you what you do with this form. Here is where you would include all the links to your submission essay and portfolio, okay? Make sure that you please set your permissions for any Google materials that you link there to anyone with a link can view, okay? And that's to make sure that assessors can access your materials even if they are assessors from UVA who are not part of K-12 Albemarle, okay? So again, you have to set your permissions before you submit it to anyone with a link can view, all right? That way they can access your materials. The form there is also going to ask you for an abstract. An abstract is a very brief description. It's 4 to 7 sentences of what your work has looked like this year. This is going to help assessors identify your work. It is not a scored part of the assessment process. Okay, it's just going to prime their brains to get ready to read your entire 10-page essay. All right, it's like you're giving them the highlight reel right there. And I linked here a very, very simple example of an abstract that I wrote this morning. So just go ahead and take a look at it if you don't know what an abstract is. And you can just put that right into the form, type it right into the form, okay? The form will also ask you to identify when you attended your CRT training, so be prepared to give that information. It's not necessary that you put the exact dates when you were doing your CRT module training. You could say fall training at Center 1, or you could say 2017 spring, all right? Just give us an approximate time when you did your CRT module training, all right?
We do have a question in the chat about the abstract.
Great.
So should the abstract be included in our essay?
The abstract is not included in your essay. It simply gets typed into the form and is a way for the assessors to see outside of your essay. Before they even look at your essay, they're going to read the abstract very quickly and see what you're up to. Okay, it's just a way to prime them. Now, after you receive certification, the abstract actually becomes the basis of when you go to the equity conference, it becomes the abstract for your presentation. Okay, so it's just a way for us to collect a little bit of that information up front so that it'll help you in the future. Any other questions?
None that I see, and no
All right.
raised.
All right, great. Chiaka, you're good at this, Chiaka.
I got you.
Thank you. Okay, folks, assessment procedures. So this is a little bit about like what Hollins was talking about. So your submission is going to be assessed by a team of 3 to 5 assessors. The team will first look at all of your work. Then they're going to get together on the call when you're presenting your portfolio. They'll be on the Zoom when you do your portfolio presentation. Then once you leave the Zoom, They're going to compare notes. They're going to discuss their assessment together, and they're going to come up with the feedback and the results for you. After that, all of that assessment, those assessment results will go to the equity specialist team, and we'll validate those results. So it's like you get 2 looks, okay? Then you'll receive notification of results about 1 month after your submission deadline. So if you submit on April 29th, notification will occur on June 5th. And if you submit at the end of April, you'll get your notification on July 3rd. All right. How will notification come from the assessment team? Well, you'll receive a letter from your assessment team in your email. So make sure that you check your email. If you'd rather receive it a different way, like it's June 5th, I'm no longer looking at my email for school. I know that's a rare event, rare for teachers. But if you're not going to be looking at your email and you'd like it sent someplace else, just let us know. Okay? All right, I'm going to answer any questions right now about assessment procedures.
I don't see any in the chat.
Okay, any hands raised?
None that I see.
Okay, so let's go on to continued support. So what if you are just, you're kind of hanging on the edge here, and you're like, Leilani, I don't know if I can finish this right now. Well, why don't we have a conversation about it before you say no? I know so many of you are completely committed. You've already got your date. You're already almost finished with your essay and portfolio. That's amazing. I'm not worried about you all. I want to make sure that people who are feeling like they've got so much work under their belts, hi Kathy, but they're just nervous about completing, rely on us. Let us support you.
Send her a video.
I hear somebody who's not on mute. Let me
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Okay, no worries. Okay, good. I love Zooms. Okay, so just rely on us and support, let us support you. Contact us. We can go on a Zoom together. We can have a FaceTime together. We can help you and prop you up, and we can even read your materials and let you know our real feedback about where you're at right now and what you would need to do to conclude. Okay? So we're just waiting. We're waiting for an opportunity to help you. Okay.
So Leilani, Jennifer Middlesworth had a question but couldn't raise her hand.
Jennifer, do you want to unmute yourself and ask?
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
I got lost. I was looking at your presentation in my Google and then I couldn't find Zoom again. Because I'm one of those on the fence people of trying to hope that I can pull this together by the 29th. And what if we don't make it? Like, do we get a revision? Can we try next year?
Absolutely.
I mean, even if we submit, if we don't meet, okay.
Yeah, if you submit and you have met the requirements, a 3 on the rubric in one or more of the characteristics, you will be awarded a micro-credential.
And then you could continue if you needed to do more work.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then next year, we'll take a look and work really hard with support for the full certification. Okay? Yep. Absolutely.
Thank you. I was just curious what happened, if it was like all or nothing. So.
Yep. And Jennifer, we have a Zoom meeting this week, so we can kind of
Yes, I'm meeting you tomorrow, so we can speak specifically.
Okay, perfect. And we'll get that all squared away tomorrow. This goes for anyone. If you would like me to take a look at your paper and your portfolio and let you know my honest feedback about what your scores on the rubric would be at this point, I would love to do that. I would absolutely love to do that. And please take advantage of that. Okay.
So Crystal in the chat wants to know if we will get docked for exceeding 10 pages.
Yes, Crystal, you knock it off. It feels so weird laughing to myself on Zoom. Crystal, can you unmute yourself for a second? How many pages are you at, my friend?
I'm at 13.
Oh, Crystal, come on.
I'm sorry.
remove just a little bit of that instructional context for me.
Okay, I will.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Try to, yeah, no problem, Crystal. Try to get it under 10 folks because you're going to kill our assessors and we want them to survive this. All right. So try as hard as you can. No less than 1.15 spacing, please. I should see all of you smiling right there. Okay. Yes. Good. No less than 1.15 spacing so that we don't have eye trauma after this. All right. And then also, you know, your instructional context, I'll tell you, maybe in the last 6 papers I read, instructional context was a little bit too long. It shouldn't be any less than 1 page, maybe 3/4 of a page, the instructional context. Get into the meat of it. Let your assessors see very clearly what the sub-indicators were that you were working toward. Okay? Make it really clear that they don't have to search at all. All right? Get those headers on there that are really, really clear. All right? Okay. And we've been answering questions and talking all along, but let's see if there's any other questions.
I don't see any in the chat, and no hands are raised.
Okay, let's see. All right, I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes here just to process the information. I can't believe I'm 9 minutes early in ending anything. I don't think that that's actually real. Okay, Rachel, I see you. Go ahead, Rachel.
This is a very strangely logistical question, but like when we have our presentation and we go to the Zoom meeting, like if we won't know everyone in the Zoom room, but like how will we know when everyone's there? Will they all know each other? Like they will have already met each other, or?
Yes, I will literally be posted on that Zoom all day.
Oh, okay. So someone that is like in charge will be.
Yeah, someone's in charge. So we have 2 assessment teams. One I will be on, and one Lars and Ayana will be on. Okay, so you could be in either assessment team, assessment room. So what you'll do is you'll come into the Zoom, you'll register to come on, then you'll be put in a waiting room.
Okay.
Then when we finish talking, we'll like get you to appear magically on the screen. Okay, then we'll introduce every single person to you. Okay. So you know everyone in the room. Chances are you'll recognize the faces of everyone in the room. They're all like mostly division people that you've seen before. A lot of people have already helped us in our cohort to understand and learn about CRT. We will smile at you and we will be very nice. Don't worry about that. And then I'll let you know, or Ayana and Lars will let you know when to start. We'll be the lead assessors. All right, you'll go ahead and start. You can share your screen with us and just go on through the presentation. You'll be able to see our faces as you're presenting because Zoom is cool like that. And then when, you know, we'll have a little timer on the screen, 30 minutes. And then when you're finished, we'll ask questions. There'll be about 15 minutes worth of questions. And then we will thank you so much for your work. And you will leave the meeting, and then we will have a conversation to see where you are on the rubric.
Okay, that's perfect. Thanks.
Okay, good. All right, let's see, Jen Graham.
Yes, so I have my little one here and I'm solo parenting and I'm already so incredibly nervous to present. And like, I'm just like, that's making me more anxious. Like, is that something you guys are going to be a little bit flexible about if I get interrupted? Or I just want to kind of like quell my own like anxiety as much as I can beforehand.
I totally understand. I mean, so many of us right now are parenting through this while also teaching, while also trying to receive certification. I mean, it is like a feat. It is an act of bravery, Jen. So that should have been your answer to what acts of bravery have you accomplished lately. Yes, absolutely. We'll be loving and caring and kind to you. And if you get distracted or if the little one comes into the room, you just hold them right up and let us see them as evidence that He's bothering you right now. And you'll be totally fine. We'll get through this together. Okay? Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Jen. No worries.
So questions in the chat.
Okay, great. Let's hear them.
Where should we place our answers to our reflection questions? And is it to be placed in our portfolio in a specific place?
Okay. Where should we place our answers to our reflection questions? So, Brandy, is that from you?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Brandy, tell me what reflection questions you're thinking about.
The one we had from the DRT meeting, we had those 3 reflection questions. I was just going to place it in my portfolio, but I wasn't sure if there was a place to put it. I was just going to put it at the end.
You're totally asking such a great question right now. The DRT meeting is separate from your certification.
Okay.
If you find those questions really helpful in some way and you'd like to answer them in your certification and you have the room to answer them in your certification,
Right.
then I'm all for you bringing them up. But you don't have to put that in your certification portfolio at all.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. How many of you were on the DRT call, by the way? Let's just see. Raise your real hand if you were on the DRT call. Okay, awesome. So that DRT meeting for our diversity resource teachers, every single year in May, our diversity resource teachers do a small presentation where they explain how they've progressed throughout the year as the diversity resource teacher at their school. And so the questions that Brandy's referring to are from the DRT year-long reflection. Those will be presented by DRTs next month. Okay, but not for certification necessarily. Okay, Hollins, you want to unmute yourself, Hollins?
Yeah, so I've noticed throughout our year together that you oftentimes use examples from previous certification candidates. Sorry, I just lost you.
Sorry, here I am.
Okay.
Hi.
There you are. Okay. Or, from their portfolios, from their essays, and I just was wondering, like, how does that work? Do you, like, when we submit this, is it yours to use, or do you typically ask people, hey, we'd like to use a sample from your essay? Like, how does that work?
That is an excellent question, and I wish I had the form to show you right now, because that answer is at the very top of the submission form. Basically, when you are linking your Google Doc and your portfolio in that form, you are giving permission for the ACPS Office of Community Engagement to use it for assessment, to assess it, and also to use it for division internal instructional purposes only. If it goes anywhere else, we will come back to you and we will ask your permission. We would never send your paper off or your portfolio off anywhere. We also are in the habit of every single time we use a portion of somebody's portfolio, we always contact them and let them know or ask permission from them. If they are like, Leilani and Lars do not do that, we would definitely back up on that and not. But we want you to know how the hard work that you've done all year long, Collins, and even before this, is how valuable it is for the other teachers and educators in our division. And so we would like, with your permission, to be able to use it for instructional purposes. We would never then, put any negative examples up. And I think that you remember that from our cohort, right, that we never had any negative.
Yeah, you wrote, you made take one when you did that. Does that also include?
You remember that? Yes, I wrote my own examples. If we had to be critical of any kind of example, it was my example. So yes, that's right.
Excuse me. Does that also include some of the slides from our portfolio that would include student data?
Your student data should be scrubbed. And
yes,
what I mean
know.
by
yes,
that,
yes, yeah.
There should be no names on student data anywhere. Now, some people are using student initials, and Jen, you're asking that question right there. I would say do not use student initials. I would use like student 1, student 2, or student A, student B. I think that that's much cleaner. Here's one exception to the anonymity, okay? We have debated about this. We have some educators who are submitting for certification who have videos of their students. It's like their whole class, right? Or it's a video of a couple of students together, and you're trying to prove a point. Those videos will only go to the assessment team, and the assessment team is confidential. Then we will never use any videos or pictures that you have to like broadcast to a larger audience. We'll never use any videos or pictures when there's non-anonymous student faces for any instructional purposes. We really strongly believe in anonymity, but if you have a video in your portfolio, the assessment team is going to be confidential.
Okay, I have a voice recording and a student name is said in the recording. Should I not include that?
Is there a way, yeah, is there a way you can just be like, blurb it?
I'll email you about this because that would defeat the point. So
okay,
yes.
got it. Okay, let's work on it.
I'll email you privately about it. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Let's work on it. I'm quite a whiz with video and audio editing, by the way.
I am not.
I've learned over the years. Okay, you guys, any final questions? Because I see we're at 6:02.
I just an elaboration on the initials. I removed it from my presentation. I have like student 1, student 2, but in my paper, I did give initials just because I didn't want things to, and sometimes I'm referencing kids, you know, in the class that aren't necessarily my cohort focus group. So leave those or take those out too.
Jen, just try to make it, do your best effort to make it as anonymous as possible. Okay, that's all we can really ask. This isn't a science. We just want what we want as people to be kids to be as anonymous as possible. Jennifer Middlesworth, go ahead. Hi.
Yeah, so I actually made up pseudonyms that, you know, start with the letter A and go through B. So I made sure I picked positive words like Abel is my first student, and Balin, which means brave in Latin, is my second student.
Sweet.
And so there's no way, and that way it doesn't read so weird when I say student 1's mother or something, you know.
Right,
I can say Balin's mother, you know.
Pseudonyms are totally fine. I love that. And you don't have to worry about the assessors reading, or it being hard to read. They're totally used to reading through pseudonyms and through student A and through student A15. It's cool. We're all pros at this already. All right. But thanks for that, Jennifer. That's really helpful. Okay, if there's no more questions, listen, if there are more questions, email me or call me or text me, okay? And I would be happy to help you through. I know some of you have emails to me that I have not responded to because today was a crazy day. So I will get back to you by tomorrow. Give me 24 more hours to get back to you and schedule a Zoom. I care about each of you. You all are amazing educators. And go forth and be brave and have mercy for people. All right? Love you all.